Coach, regarding Deontay, who you touched on, when did it become apparent that he was making those types of strides, the strides that you needed to see, and maybe what was the influence of the seniors that have been here for so long on him, helping to bring him along?
I've asked him a couple times, just why the change? What made you make this change? And I hope I played a small part in it, but 90% of it has to come from him. And so I think obviously you become a senior and you understand this is your last year. Probably watching guys like George work, that's the one thing I think probably when I walked in, I think the best thing about the culture here was the way the guys worked on their own. And that's what we got to continue to recruit guys that are going to invest in the gym. The great players that I've been around have put time in the gym. That's why they're NBA, that's why they're high level overseas, but that's why they're continuing to play. And so I think he may have saw that. But once he came back from just the NBA things, once he kind of took his name out of the draft, once we met, once we kind of had what I would say a heart-to-heart of, hey, here's what I expect. I'll give you this. I'll give you your freedom in these areas, but this is what I need from you as a senior in this program going forward. And he's been exceptional. And the biggest reason I wanted to be successful, obviously, going to help this team. But if he can change and he can have success, man, that's going to help him down the road. It's going to help him down the road be so much better in so many areas. But I'm really proud of the strides he's made.
Going back to Naz a little bit, in the little bit that we saw him last year, it seemed like his game had evolved somewhat. He was taken to the basket more often. Bring up Matt Thomas again and how well he can shoot the three, and obviously Donovan Jackson's a guy you expect to shoot from the perimeter. How do you see Naz's game evolving as a senior?
I think first and foremost when you talk about Naz, the first thing you say is whatever team he's on, he makes them better. He's on red most of the time with us, but you flip him to gold, he's going to make them better. I think he's as healthy as he's ever been. His work ethic is unbelievable from a standpoint that he's graduated, so he's in here a lot, getting extra shots, similar to how Dooley was in the spring last year. But I think you can put Naz in pick and roll. I think some of these guys will be asked to do a little bit more offensively than they have in the past, to where they'll be put in some pick and roll situations. There'll be a lot of pin downs and staggers run for them that will run instead of having a slow transition to where we're playing at a good pace and getting into action quick, we'll kick it ahead early and have a lot of, hopefully get those guys in transition running and getting transition threes. But I think Naz is versatile where he can play several positions for us. The one, if we need him at the one some, the two, he can score, he can make shots. His maturity level is off the charts. And like I said, his leadership is as good as I've been around.
Steve, you talked, excuse me, going back to Deontay now. You said you gave him freedom. I've got a couple of things on him. You gave him freedom. What kind of freedoms did you give him, number one? And number two, you talked about him playing the George role, at least filling, being in that position. What about the Abdul role, too? Is there any chance there?
When you look at our team and our personnel, Abdul's role probably a little bit tougher. I mean, if you really look once, our team finished up the second half of the year, Dooley really primarily played to three. I don't know if when you're just talking about numbers 1, 2, 3, and then you're playing two forwards, with that, I don't know if are we putting out our best players all the time? Now, it may happen, but you can still put him in situations to show his versatility, whether he's the 5. We could play 4 guards and play him at the 5 if we wanted to at times. And that'll be a lineup we play at times. We haven't used it. I threw it in one time yesterday for the first time, but we'll do that at times. He understands that he's versatile. When I talk about the freedom, I'm talking about socks at practice and little things like that 2 years ago would have drove me out my mind. So I've give and take a little bit of that in the transition, but not anything more than the little things like that. But he's been terrific. And like I said, from a standpoint of Niang is, we'll post him at times. Niang is Niang. That's the end of discussion. But just from a versatility standpoint to where 4s are going to have to guard him, and he's a tough cover. 5s may have to guard him, and he'll be a tough cover to where he can drive. The biggest thing is now he's got, like I told him, is he's made this growth. Now that we're in 5-on-5 action, now he's got to make this next growth. And he was great yesterday. He was terrific yesterday, and I'm just proud of him. And I just hope that's what I'm pulling for him, because long term.
Monte's body went through a lot of wear and tear last year, and you guys needed him on the floor so much last season. How do you balance keeping him on the floor versus keeping him fresh? And, I mean, do you have an idea of how many minutes a game you want to see him out there?
Yeah. Hef had a great line when we were talking before this. He said 30 to 32 minutes with gusts up to 40, which is funny. I laughed. It was funny. But if we can keep him right around that 30, 32-minute range is great. Because I think it does keep him healthy. I think it keeps him more focused on the defensive end. It keeps him pushing the ball at the tempo that this team has to play with. I think last year we transitioned with pace. This year we may need to transition with a pop, where it's one dribble, kick it ahead. And I like that, to play like that, and I feel very comfortable playing like that, especially when you have the perimeter set that we have. And so, can he play 38 minutes? Do I think a college kid can play 38 minutes night in, night out? Yeah, I do. And that's why, I played him the minutes, and that's why I played that position a lot of minutes. Because that's the extension of the coach. That's who makes things go. That's, who I'm entrusting to run our basketball team. But the great thing about Monte is he's okay with playing 30. He just wants to win. And he's got bukus of records he can set here. All-time wins leader, assist leader, steals leader. And you're talking to him, and I say, hey, your minutes may go down. He's like, that's fine. He comes back to school. He's never mentioned it one time about, man, if something didn't go his way that day, I should have went. And you hear that when you deal with kids that have opportunities to leave or stay. He's all in since the day he came back, and his leadership's been terrific as well.
What was maybe the biggest part of Nick's game that evolved in his year off, and what did that year do for him, to get him to the point where he is now?
Nick's been around this program a long time. His brother Chris played here, obviously had a ton of success. Nick, last year, when you're sit-out guy, especially last year's team was unique in the standpoint that those first six were so dominant. I mean, that six were really, really, really good. And so, he could get lost at times last year. If Nick can become consistent with the way his skill set, he's what I envision, to where I'd love to have three guys like them that, it's not just a guy who can make shots, or it's not just a guy who can bounce it. He can bounce it, he can shoot it, late shot clock, he can rise over you and get a paint touch. I'm big on paint touches, driving for paint touches, attacking ball screens to get paint touches. He can do that. And then he's versatile enough to where he can guard the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. If you're going to play 4 guards, you have to have a 4-man or one of your guards be tough enough and resilient enough to be able to guard a post guy. And I think he has that. And if we can continue to have it be consistent, then I said yesterday in practice, when you talk about NBA potential, he may have the best NBA potential when you're just looking at straight NBA potential on our roster.
What do you hope to achieve defensively this year?
A couple things. At times we got to turn people over. I've had teams that have done it in the half court. In the half court, when we get people set, we want to really be focused on containing the dribble. We didn't do a good enough job last year of containing the dribble. So when we're in the half court, we're thinking, pack it in, contain the dribble, contest and finish. We have to be better in these areas this year. And I'd put it on the board, and it's in our board right now. Transition defense, contesting shots, containing the dribble, and finishing plays. And that sounds simple, but it's tough to do. No layups. We gave up 35% of our shots last year were layups. That has to be 15 to 20%. Too many uncontested shots last year. Between contested and uncontested shots, Coach Hobbs went through every Big 12 game. 20% difference between contested shots and uncontested shots. So our mentality has to change too on the defensive end, that we can be a good defensive team. But I do think at times that's why three-quarter court pressure. I've never put it in this early, and I've never always worked on it. We'll work on it daily this year to where I think it can be very good for this team, changing defenses we're versatile enough to where they can all play different positions in the press, and then when we get matched up, we can guard different positions and switch back. But I do think we need to turn people over at times to get the game at a good pace.
That ability to be multiple defensively, how much of that might be out of necessity given if you go a 4-guard lineup or you have a 6'4" power forward where you need to throw different looks at teams because there's going to be probably a mismatch or two for you on that end of the floor a lot?
Yeah, I think a lot of things you do defensively is not either adding a versatility or necessity or what's best for this team to win games. And I think if we just ran back and played half-court defense for this team, that wouldn't be the best thing for this team. This team needs to change defenses. This team can switch ball screens. This team can switch dribble handoffs. That's the great thing about a Burton. If Bowie backs him up, those guys, we can switch 1 through 4. We can pick up three-quarter court pressure. We can take time off the shot clock. But we've got to be a lot more focused in our approach defensively, that we can be good defensively. You know, the reason the team in our league is elite every year is because they're top in offense. They have top offensive stats, but their defensive stats are top. That's why they're consistently good. You know, we've been great offensively, and now we have to make strides to get better defensively. And there's got to be a focus and a toughness approach to that.
In the past, it seems like you've liked 2 point guards on the floor at the same time, and now you kind of got that with Donovan and Monte. What have you done with it in the past, and why do you like that look, and how much could Monte maybe play that 2 spot at times?
Yeah, Monte likes it because he's shooting the ball so much better right now, and he's getting out and running the floor. You know, I wouldn't say it's necessarily 2 point guards. I just want guys at those positions that can make plays off the bounce, you know, to where we can really spread people out and put pressure on the defense and get really, I talked to him, but get to the Big 12 logo. For a jump shot, or right there, you got to make your decision. Shot, pass, or all the way to the rim. And so I just think it gives you a lot of versatility. I think it makes you tough to guard. You know, you get guys out running. I think you can really kick it ahead to where guys can play. You can play off multiple ball screens. I just think it gives you you're just very tough to guard when you got, you know, 1, 2, 3, all with the ability to make plays off the dribble. Because that's the toughest thing to do in basketball, is guard the dribble.
Coach, you got a number of new candidates in the front line, and Holden, Bowie, and Young. Has anyone been a pleasant surprise for you at that position?
You know, that's the one thing. If you look at our team, I think 1 through 4, you know what you're probably going to get every single day. I think we got great guard depth. Burton obviously solidified at that, you know, whatever you want to call them. You know, I just say forwards and guards nowadays because everybody's so caught up into, you know, whether I'm a guard, a point guard, a post, a wing. But the thing we have to do now from October 12th, you know, to November 11th to December 30th is we got to continue to invest daily, you know, with these front court guys because none of them have been here before. You know, everyone's coming with a different story. Merle and Darryl are fifth-year guys. Solomon's a high school kid. Simeon didn't really play last year, okay? And it was such a learning curve from him because those guys in front of him were so advanced. So it's brand new for so many of these guys. So we have to get them in the gym before practice. We got to stay after. We got to get them in the film room, and we got to catch them up to speed as best as possible. But whoever can play at that position, if they can defend and rebound, if they can rim run, if they can sprint the ball screens, if they can do those core things, that's who's going to play for us. But everyone's had a day. Merle's had some great days where his energy's been really good because the things he can do what we need him to do. He's just got to do it on a daily basis. Darryl, same thing. I thought his energy was a lot better yesterday. And then Solomon's a guy that as he gets better and understands ball screen coverage, how to sprint to screens, post defense, angles, that he's going to have a guy, I think, as a freshman, because his body is ready. You know, his body's ready. You'll see when you haven't met him. He's got a college body. I think those are 3 guys we got to, you know, get ready right now.
What can Matt do to kind of expand his role this year, and how can he take another step forward after he took one step forward last year?
Yeah, stay within what he does well and what he's been doing well, and that's running the floor, making shots, being solid on defense, playing within himself. And the biggest thing when I met with him the other day, never ever not play with great confidence. everybody should be playing. All these guards, shoot it, you miss it, shoot it again. You know, obviously they're bad shots. I always joke, if they're bad shots, you understand that. But don't ever let, you're too good of a shooter, because he may go 0 for 3 and then go 4 for 7.